Mr. Spavento, in the last 2 years, the budget went from 60 million to 70 million. 2 years. That's a lot of money. And yet, when you look around the city, you have to ask yourself, where did it go? I've never seen a budget, with the exception of maybe $3 million here or there, go down every year. So if you assume that you now have a $70 million budget, next year, I would not expect to take away salaries from people, so they've already been budgeted for this year. There's an expectation that they should make at least that much and more the next year. That has to come from somewhere if we're going to lose money because people, and I will vote for my own self-interest, like most people will, if that $25,000 exemption works for me. Therefore, there will be that much less to give the same amount of service that you've budgeted for the year before, because nobody wants to go backwards. Okay. And that's what we would be asking people to do if you don't have the same amount of revenue, to give at least the same amount of service, if not better, because everything goes up every year. Our budgets don't go backwards, they go forwards. And with that in mind, and I don't know that my property value will go up another 10% next year. I doubt it seriously, because there comes a point where you got to say, there's no way that house is worth that.
All right, you spoke through my last 2 minutes there. Since you brought it up, I have been doing government budgets for 13 years. And for 12
But you're talking about Coral Bay.
Government budgets. 13 years, one-time taxes were raised. Every year we cut our expenses. Every year we used the dollar wisely. Expenses went up dramatically in the last 13 years. We went through the 2008 crisis. We went through Wilma. We went through Irma. We built new roads, new walls, new parks, security, landscaping, Christmas lights, all kinds of things that were not there for the same price that the people paid 12 years ago, because we stayed on top of our departments during the year and asked, what's this? What's that? We didn't wait till budget time.
You realize that's not how this city works.
I can
the city
see
manager,
that's not
no,
how the city works.
The city manager makes those decisions.
And we have a district manager.
And there's nothing that I can direct him to do, or any of us, during the year, unless he chooses to do it, because that's a charter violation.
All year long. At the last budget meeting, you directed them to do away with the step plan. And now at another budget workshop,
nobody directed anybody to do away with the step plan.
That was the direction he was given to, and then when I went to the negotiations,
no,
that was the direction he followed through on. And he had no fallback
You were not
positions.
in our meeting.
I was at the
You
meeting.
were not in our shade meeting.
No, I was not in the shade.
So therefore, you cannot speak to what we did.
I was at the union
Good for you, but that doesn't
and I
mean
saw there was no fallback position for the city manager. He went in there with direction. His direction was not accepted. He couldn't negotiate because of his direction. You give direction every meeting. So
let me tell you that what you think you heard was not necessarily what he was directed to do, because he has his own mind and had the right to go and do other things as well. And I will leave it at that point. You want to have that conversation with him separately?
Meeting.
He will be happy to tell you that.
It's a 15-minute meeting. You listen to the meeting, the negotiation, and you will see that he had to end because he was directed to say this.
And I'm telling you that you are not necessarily correct.
You say that a lot. And I wish there was a sunshine law that made us aware of what was going on, because every time I come here with a question, you tell me there's stuff I don't know. I've gone, except for Ms. Pierman, nobody here has been to more meetings over the last 15 years than me.
Really?
So how I don't know.
Really?
Yeah, I didn't see you when you were on the
Really? And I haven't seen you in the last 2 years, except for maybe 4 or 5. So I'm assuming you watch them at home, which is perfectly fine, because that's what you say.
Is that for decoration? Because I can pull up me here again and again.
It doesn't really matter, Tony.
I know.
It doesn't really matter. The bottom line is, if you want the same services next year and the year after, you have to have the money to pay for them.